Hey folks, welcome back to another edition of Crimson Tide Today. I'm your host, Zack Aitken. Please like and subscribe to our channel for all the latest updates on the show. And for all the news regarding Alabama football, make sure to follow my X and Instagram account, ZAitken7. Let's get today's show kicked off. So I've got some bad news, Alabama fans. We're currently ranked second. It's not what you think. I'm not referring to a preseason AP poll of some sorts. I'm certainly not talking about recruiting. I'm talking about hatred. There's a national survey that's been circulating social media, and it's regarding what's the most hated team in college football. And it's been determined by this poll that the Alabama Crimson Tide are the second most hated college football team in the country. Let's not be surprised here. Alabama, they've been the most dominant program of all time. So naturally, there's going to be haters when you see a program that has the success that Alabama's had. And there's always going to be resentment when two of the greatest coaches in college football, Coach Paul Bear-Bryant and head coach Nick Saban, both of those coaches patrolled the sidelines in Tuscaloosa. So obviously that led to decades of dominance and championships. And I always go back to the age-old expression, they hate us because they ain't us. And the number one hated team, like I said, Alabama's number two. Number one hated team is not much of a surprise. That title goes to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They can go ahead and claim the national championship for the most hated team in college football for 2026. Go on ahead and hang that banner up in South Bend. It's been a while since 1988, since the Domers have been all the way, but go ahead and claim that national championship, Notre Dame. We'll go ahead and give it to you. Notre Dame and Alabama, they've always have had similar, storied success. They've had, great historic tradition. I've got a lot of respect for the Fighting Irish program. And they've always, they're always in the conversation about college football. When you go from California to New York, you're going to hear certain teams being brought up in college football. Notre Dame and Alabama are definitely two of the top teams when it comes to that. On a personal note, I was taught at a very young age to hate the Irish. Most Alabama fans would probably agree. I mean, this hatred, it goes back to the 1960s. Former Alabama coach Paul Bear-Bryant, he went 0-4 against Notre Dame, so that's where that historical generational hatred started. Like I said, he went 0-4, but the Bear, he would be very proud with how the Tide has matched up with the Irish in the modern era. Alabama is 2-0 in the last two meetings, and both of the games were both postseason beatdowns. So, like I said, Notre Dame, go ahead and hang the banner, and congrats to the Irish on a national championship for 2026. Moving on, for Alabama to build off the success that they had in the year two of the Kalen DeBoer era, they must improve their offensive line play. This offseason, Kalen DeBoer fired offensive line coach Chris Kaplovich, and it was well warranted. Alabama's running game, it was awful. I mean, I'm sure that's one of the first things you think of the 2025 season was how terrible the running game was. Alabama's running game, it was statistically one of the worst in the program's history. It ranked 123rd out of 136 FBS teams. We just averaged over 3 yards a carry, exactly 3.35 yards per carry, and just over 100 yards rushing per game. And that represents the lowest rushing production seen in Tuscaloosa in decades. Coach Cap, he's going to be replaced by offensive line coach Adrian Clem, who's going to be coming over from USC. Clem, he's considered a highly respected offensive line coach, and he's known for his ability to develop players and build elite running games. He has a very impressive resume. He has collegiate stops at UCLA and Oregon, as well as USC, and he's also had stops in the NFL ranks with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New England Patriots. When he was at Oregon as the offensive line coach, the Ducks were averaging over 200 yards per game on the ground, and they only allowed 5 sacks the entire season. I think there's one thing that we want to see from this group: maulers. We want to see offensive linemen that move guys, and they have an attitude. They have a hatred for the defense. Offensive linemen, they're called the big uglies for a reason. When you think of the great Alabama teams, physical offensive line play has always been a common denominator. This goes all the way back to the wishbone days during the Bryant era. Alabama must get back to being able to establish the offensive line's point of attack. And based off the personnel and the staff turnover, I think we'll see great strides in that regard. Moving on, another common denominator that we've seen with some of the great Alabama teams, especially of recent years, difference makers out on the perimeter. Ryan Coleman Williams is going to be headlining the 2026 receiver corps for Alabama, and he's going to be supported with newcomers such as Sadaria Morgan and Noah Rogers. Morgan is a former five-star recruit out of Alexander City, Alabama, and he's being heralded as the next Julio Jones type of receiver. And Noah Rogers, he's a transfer coming in from NC State. Rogers, he had an outstanding spring game before getting injured in the A-Day game this past April. But head coach Kalen DeBoer, he says that he will be available at some point at the beginning of the season. We still don't know when, but we should expect for Noah Rogers to contribute at some point in the 2026 campaign for the Crimson Tide. Going back to Ryan Coleman Williams, expectations have never been higher as he's entering his junior year. He's no longer the 17-year-old that's playing college football. How many times did you guys hear that this past season, or during his freshman year, excuse me? He's going to be having the expectations of being the focal point for Alabama's offense, especially out on the perimeter. And he's going to have, based off that talent, the expectations is well warranted. Based off the pure talent, Williams, he's easily a first-round draft pick. And based off recent images that have been circulating on social media, it looks like he's been putting in the work to add some muscle to his 6-foot frame. He got dinged up a little bit last season and he missed some time, so I'm really glad that he's making strides to do what he can to improve his strength and durability to make sure he can stay on the field. Consistency in 2026 is going to make Ryan Coleman Williams a first-round draft pick in next year's NFL draft. Following a stellar freshman campaign where he had 865 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns, we did see his numbers dip to about 700 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns in his sophomore season this past year. To me, I think the eye-popping stat was his team-leading 13 drops that he had in 2025. And unfortunately, a few of those came in big time situations. The first one that comes to mind for me was the absolute dime that Ty Simpson threw to him against Georgia in Athens, just right over the shoulder. Would have been a walk-in touchdown. And unfortunately, Ryan was just unable to squeeze it and, just went right through his hands. And fortunately, Alabama was able to come away with a win in that game. But it's just moments like that where you expect Ryan Coleman Williams to be a true wide receiver one and make plays for his team. Ryan, he has the speed, the route running polish, and the exciting yards after catch ability to be an All-American for the Tide this season. If he's able to put it all together this year, look out for this offense to take off, along with guys like Sadaria Morgan, Derek Meadows, Noah Rogers. If we can get the quarterback protected by the offensive line, either Keelan Russell or Austin Mack, give him some time to get it to some playmakers, I think we're going to see some significant strides for the passing game in the 2026 season for Alabama. Wrapping up today's show, I wanted to talk about Jackson Lloyd. Jackson Lloyd is projected to be the offensive tackle at left tackle this season, and Alabama has enjoyed quality tackle play in recent years. Guys from, Cam Robinson, Jonah Williams, Evan Neal, J.C. Latham, and most recently Caden Proctor. It's a position group that Alabama historically can match up with in any program within the past decade. Jackson Lloyd is projected to take over the left tackle spot following Caden Proctor, as he ended up being a first-round pick for the Miami Dolphins this past draft. And Lloyd, he's a big-time prospect. He was a 5-star recruit in his class, and he has the prototypical size to be an elite offensive tackle. He goes 6'7" and 320 pounds. From everything I've seen on tape, this kid's long, athletic, and he moves well for a guy his size. And Alabama's offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, he's already given him a vote of confidence to the media. When asked about Jackson Lloyd during spring ball, Grubb boldly stated that he, Jackson Lloyd, is our left tackle. So that's got to give a young player a ton of confidence as he's stepping into a starting role at the beginning of his career. I believe Jackson Lloyd, he's got all the tools to be a solid SEC level starter in 2026, and he's got the upside to turn into a great player moving forward in 2027. He's going to have his fair share of lowlights. He's going to be stepping into the hardest role on the offensive line in modern college football. He's going to be out there on an island, and he's going to be facing everybody's best pass rusher in a league that's been churning out elite pass rushers in the NFL draft every single year. Hopefully, Jackson Lloyd will be able to take advantage of Alabama's early slate of games to build up his confidence. Remember, Alabama's going to open up with East Carolina, and then they have Kentucky and then Florida State. The first real test for the first year starter will be with star pass rusher Dylan Stewart and the South Carolina Gamecocks come to Tuscaloosa on September 26. As always, guys, thank you for watching Crimson Tide today. Drop some talking points you want covered in an upcoming episode down in the comments. And until next time, roll Tide.